Throughout history, there are stories, whispers, really, that have never been fully explained. Ancient ruins abandoned overnight, lost cities that vanish from maps, and enigmatic artifacts with no origin. But what if these mysteries aren't just relics of the past? What if they're clues, pieces of a much darker puzzle waiting to be unlocked? Join us as we delve into the creepiest historical mysteries, untold tales that defy logic, question the fabric of reality, and challenge everything we think we know. So sit back, relax, and let's unravel the secrets together. In the cold, isolated expanse of Greenland's western shores, where the sea meets jagged cliffs and the wind carries whispers of a forgotten past, there lies a mystery that has perplexed historians and archaeologists for centuries. Beneath layers of ice and over centuries of changing landscapes, the remnants of a Viking colony, founded over 1,000 years ago, have vanished into the mist of time. The Vikings, those bold, seafaring explorers, arrived in Greenland around the year 986 AD, led by Eric the Red, a man whose name became synonymous with adventure and conquest. He established 2 colonies on this harsh, desolate island, the eastern and the western settlements. Of the 2, the western colony remains the more enigmatic, its ultimate fate a topic of endless speculation. By all historical accounts, the colony thrived for nearly 400 years. It was a bustling community, relying on farming, hunting, and trade with Europe. Yet, in the early 15th century, something changed. By the time the Europeans began to turn their eyes back to Greenland, the western colony had seemingly vanished. The eastern settlement, too, eventually disappeared, but it is the fate of the western settlement that continues to intrigue. No one can say with certainty what caused its sudden and unexplained disappearance. Was it a slow decline brought on by a changing climate? The so-called Little Ice Age was tightening its grip on Greenland around the 14th century, and temperatures dropped dramatically. Did this cause crop failures, food shortages, or a collapse of the Viking economy? Or perhaps, was it the relentless pressure from the indigenous Inuit population, whose survival tactics better adapted to the harsh Arctic environment? Some scholars suggest that the settlers, unable to adapt to the increasingly harsh climate, may have simply given up, retreating into oblivion or seeking refuge elsewhere. Others argue that the Vikings were pushed out by the forces of nature, a combination of storms, floods, and the encroaching ice, making life in the colony untenable. But why, then, did they leave so suddenly? Why did no written records remain to explain their final days? Yet there are other, more speculative theories. Could the Vikings, driven by their thirst for exploration, have simply disappeared into the wilderness? Did they seek to establish new colonies, venturing further into the Arctic or even the Americas? Was there a breakdown in communication with Europe? Did they fail to send word back to their homelands, leaving the outside world unaware of their fate? Even more mysterious are the occasional discoveries that continue to surface from the Greenlandic landscape, ruins, burial sites, and artifacts that offer tantalizing glimpses into their past. A Viking longhouse unearthed beneath the permafrost, tools used in daily life, and even animal remains hint at the colony's survival long after it was thought to have vanished. But these clues only deepen the mystery. How could a thriving society leave behind such fragments without a trace of its downfall? In the early 2000s, a team of archaeologists uncovered more evidence suggesting the Vikings may have retreated to more remote regions, possibly abandoning the coastal settlements in search of a more sustainable existence. But the question remains, if the Vikings left, where did they go? Were they truly lost to time, or did they leave behind something more? A trail, a final message, or a hidden settlement that waits to be rediscovered beneath the ice? The truth is, we may never know. The Western Viking colony, like so many mysteries from history, is a puzzle that refuses to fit neatly into the known facts. And yet, each new discovery, each new theory, brings us a step closer to understanding what happened to those hardy souls who once called Greenland home. Perhaps the answers are buried beneath centuries of ice, waiting for the right moment to emerge, or perhaps they are lost forever in the shifting tides of time. But for now, the story remains incomplete, and the question lingers: what truly became of the lost Viking colony in Greenland's west? As we leave behind the frozen shores of Greenland's west, where the Viking settlers once braved the harshest of elements, we turn our attention to another long-standing enigma, one that has puzzled sailors, explorers, and cartographers for centuries: the phantom island of Bus. Located in the northern waters of the Atlantic, somewhere between the Scottish Highlands and the Orkney Islands, Bus was once marked on maps with a peculiar sense of certainty. Yet, despite being prominently listed on maritime charts from the 16th century onward, Bus, unlike Greenland's lost Viking colony, did not succumb to the ravages of time or the unforgiving forces of nature. Instead, it simply vanished from existence, leaving no trace of its once confirmed presence. The island was first noted by the famous English explorer and cartographer John Dee in 1570. Dee, who was well versed in both the sciences and the mysteries of the age, had a reputation for navigating treacherous waters with extraordinary accuracy. His maps, however, included Bus as a seemingly reliable island, situated in the sea between Britain and the northern coast of Europe. According to Dee, it was a small landmass, inhabited by people and brimming with resources, a place of refuge and possibility. Yet, despite numerous sailors reporting sightings of the island in the centuries that followed, no one could ever confirm its location. The island, first mentioned in passing and later etched into maritime maps, was an object of great curiosity. Some explorers claimed to have sailed near it, while others insisted they had seen its shores from the distance. But as years turned into decades, and decades into centuries, Bus slowly faded from the collective memory. The island, it seemed, had disappeared, not just from the maps, but from history itself. It's not hard to imagine how an island could be overlooked, especially in the rough and uncharted waters of the North Atlantic. The coastline here is jagged and unforgiving, with currents that shift and conceal the true nature of the land beneath. For centuries, explorers navigating these waters relied on the unreliable compasses of the time, unable to accurately map every rock or piece of land they encountered. And yet, despite these challenges, Bus had been documented clearly, until, suddenly, it wasn't. Historians, always keen to unravel the strange, began to speculate. Some suggested that Bus was indeed a real island, a place lost to time due to shifting currents, rising sea levels, or the gradual erosion of its once visible shoreline. It's not impossible to imagine that a small, uninhabited island could have disappeared over time, swallowed by the very waters it once defied. But how, then, do we explain the detailed accounts of sailors who swore they had been near it? Was it a mirage? A trick of the mind, fueled by the fatigue of long voyages and the harsh environment? But the mystery didn't end there. The phantom island of Bus didn't simply fade from the world's collective knowledge. It took on a far more ethereal quality. Some who had studied its history and the reports of its sightings came to a startling conclusion. What if Bus was never a physical island at all? What if it was the product of sailors' imaginations? An island born out of myth and legend, its existence fueled not by geography, but by the stories of those who searched for it. Could Bus have been a metaphorical island, a dream of possibility in a world that was still largely unknown? Or perhaps a collective desire for discovery, a hope for new lands that never quite materialized? In this sense, Bus became a symbol, not of an actual place, but of the human need to chart the world and claim the unknown as our own. And yet, Despite these theories, there remain those who refuse to accept that Bus was merely a mirage. The tantalizing possibility that it was real, hidden somewhere beneath the waves or obscured by the shifting tides, continues to stir the imagination. A small and unknown piece of land, lost to time yet remembered by those who sailed its waters. For in the world of explorers and adventurers, there are few things more alluring than a place no one can find. Further complicating the mystery are modern reports of strange sightings in the area. While no official expedition has been able to locate Bus in recent years, there have been occasional, unverified claims of ships encountering something resembling an island in the area where Bus was once thought to be. Were these sightings merely the result of misidentified rocks or distant land masses? Or could there be something deeper at play, something that evades our understanding of the physical world? The accounts of these sightings remain shrouded in mystery, offering only faint clues as to what might have been seen. Some claim they glimpsed a small, barren island just at the horizon, too far to be certain but too close to ignore. Others report seeing the flicker of lights on what should have been open water, suggesting that Bus may not be entirely absent from the sea after all. The theories are as varied as they are unprovable. Some suggest that Bus might be located near an area of extreme magnetic anomaly, where compasses go haywire and explorers lose their bearings, leading them to mistakenly chart land where none exists. Others postulate that Bus was a once temporary landmass, like a sandbar, which was swept away by a massive storm or earthquake, never to be seen again. Despite all the speculation, one thing remains certain. The phantom island of Bus continues to resist discovery. Is it simply a figment of the imagination, a mere mistake on early maps? Or is it a real, lost piece of land, hidden beneath the waves, waiting for someone to uncover it once more? In the end, the mystery of Bus remains unresolved, an enigma that refuses to be forgotten. What was it? Where did it go? And most importantly, what lies hidden in the depths, just beyond our reach, waiting to be found? The answers, like the island itself, remain elusive. But one thing is clear. Bus is not merely a historical footnote. It is a symbol of the unknown, a reminder of how much still lies hidden beneath the surface of the world we think we know. As we move away from the mysterious waters where the phantom island of Bus once lay, we turn our attention to another tale that involves riches, loss, and an enduring enigma, one that traces the ancient trade routes of West Africa. The lost caravan of Timbuktu gold is a story shrouded in both legend and historical reality, a story of a fabled wealth that vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of its existence. Timbuktu, an ancient city in what is now modern-day Mali, was once a thriving hub of commerce, culture, and scholarship. Its location, deep within the Sahara Desert, made it a focal point for trade, attracting merchants from across the Islamic world, Europe, and sub-Saharan Africa. By the 14th century, Timbuktu was renowned not only for its intellectual legacy, but for the unimaginable wealth that flowed through its streets. It was said that the city's markets were filled with gold, ivory, and salt, precious commodities that exchanged hands in a city that was often described as one of the most prosperous in the world. The wealth of Timbuktu was largely built upon gold, which had been discovered in vast quantities in the nearby region of Bambouk. For centuries, the gold trade sustained the city, making it the envy of empires and dynasties alike. But it was a single event, an event that would come to define the mystery of the lost caravan, that would etch Timbuktu's wealth into the annals of history. In 1324, the legendary ruler of the Mali Empire, Mansa Musa, embarked on an extraordinary pilgrimage to Mecca, one that would bring him into the history books. It is said that Mansa Musa's procession was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A caravan of tens of thousands of people, hundreds of camels laden with gold, and a spectacle so grand that it drew the attention of all who witnessed it. As he traveled through the desert, Mansa Musa gave away vast amounts of gold, sparking both admiration and envy. Yet, even as Mansa Musa's wealth became legendary, there was another caravan, a different journey, that would leave a trail of mystery. This was the caravan that carried a substantial portion of the Mali Empire's gold to be sold in distant lands, but it would never reach its destination. Somewhere, lost in the vast, unforgiving Sahara, the caravan vanished. The year was 1433, and Mali was still an empire of tremendous wealth, but the caravan in question was carrying something even more precious, an immense quantity of gold that would secure its place as one of the most valuable cargoes ever transported across the desert. Historical accounts suggest that the caravan was headed to the Mediterranean coast, where the gold would be sold to merchants and kingdoms in North Africa and beyond. But somewhere along its journey, something went horribly wrong. The details surrounding the disappearance of this caravan are sketchy at best. Some accounts claim that the caravan was lost to a sandstorm, swallowed by the dunes, with no survivors to tell the tale. Others suggest that it was the target of bandits or rival traders who ambushed the caravan and took the gold for themselves. And yet, another theory posits that the caravan became lost due to a miscalculation of the desert's shifting geography, its route obscured by an endless expanse of sand. What is certain is that the gold never reached its destination. The caravan, its riches, and its people vanished into the vast emptiness of the Sahara Desert, leaving behind no trace, no buried artifacts, no remains, not even a whisper of its final resting place. To this day, no one has found the lost gold, and no one knows for sure what happened to those who traveled with it. Some historians have suggested that the caravan's disappearance was simply a tragic accident, a victim of the harsh realities of desert travel. The Sahara, with its unrelenting heat, shifting dunes, and unpredictable storms, has claimed countless lives and treasures over the centuries. Could the caravan have been lost to the unforgiving desert, its gold buried beneath layers of sand? Others believe that the disappearance was far more deliberate, an act of betrayal or foul play. The Mali Empire, at its height, was an immensely powerful force, but with power often comes danger. Was the caravan the victim of a well-coordinated heist, perhaps perpetrated by a rival faction seeking to claim the gold for themselves? Some even suggest that the caravan's riches may have been taken by a foreign power, lying in wait along the trade routes. But there is also a more speculative theory, one that has captured the imagination of treasure hunters and historians alike. Could the gold of the lost caravan still be hidden, buried somewhere in the Sahara? The desert, vast and treacherous, is an enigmatic place where the land can easily conceal its secrets. Could it be that the gold still lies beneath the sand, untouched for centuries, waiting to be rediscovered? The idea that the gold might still be out there, waiting, hidden, perhaps even protected by the desert itself, remains a tantalizing possibility. Numerous expeditions have been launched over the years in search of the lost caravan, but each one has returned empty-handed. Theories abound about the caravan's final resting place, with some believing it might be buried near the ancient trading city of Gao, while others argue it could be hidden closer to the Niger River, or even in the heart of the desert itself. And yet, despite centuries of searching, the mystery of the lost caravan remains unsolved. Some believe that it will never be found, that the gold was taken by time, nature, or the treachery of those who sought to claim it. But others hold on to the belief that the gold is still out there, waiting to be discovered, hidden in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Sahara. What happened to the caravan of Timbuktu gold? Was it truly lost to the sands of time, or has it simply been waiting to be uncovered by those with the means to seek it? And what secrets might the desert still hold, buried beneath its shifting sands, waiting for someone to find them. The answers, it seems, are as elusive as the gold itself, an enduring mystery that refuses to fade into history but instead continues to captivate the imagination. As the search for the lost gold of Timbuktu drifts into the sands of history, we now turn our gaze to a far different kind of mystery, one that unfolds not in the heat of the desert, but under the heavy, humid skies of a small town in Honduras. Here, in the region of Yoro, an event occurs so strange that it has been chronicled for centuries: the rain of fish. Imagine, if you will, the small town of Yoro, nestled in the foothills of the rugged mountains that rise gently from the Central American landscape. The air is thick with the scent of rain, and the town's narrow streets lie still beneath darkening clouds. Then, without warning, the heavens open, and down come the fish. It is said that every year, during the rainy season, the people of Yoro awaken to find the streets and fields littered with hundreds, even thousands of fish. These aren't mere reports of a few fish caught in the rain. They are fish of all sizes, from small minnows to larger species. They appear on the ground, in the gutters, on rooftops, even in the gardens. An event that seems impossible, yet has been documented for over a century. Local folklore describes the phenomenon as lluvia de peces, the rain of fish, a curious occurrence that has puzzled both the people of Yoro and the scientific community alike. The first recorded account dates back to the 19th century, when a priest named Father José María Díaz wrote of a rain that fell from the sky in 1850. He spoke of it as a miraculous event, one that left the people both astonished and reverent. Yet, despite the many years that have passed, the phenomenon persists, occurring at least once or twice every year, most often between May and July. But how could such an event occur? How could fish, living creatures, fall from the sky, appearing so suddenly and in such abundance? The local people of Yoro have their own theories. For many, the fish are seen as a divine gift, a sign from the heavens. There is a deep-rooted belief in the supernatural, in forces beyond human understanding. The fish are viewed as a blessing, a rare and inexplicable event that brings a sense of wonder and awe to the community. But for others, the mystery requires a more rational explanation. Scientists have long struggled to understand the phenomenon, offering a number of theories that range from the plausible to the speculative. One of the most widely accepted explanations is that the fish are swept up by strong winds, perhaps even tornadoes or waterspouts, that are capable of lifting small aquatic creatures from lakes or rivers and depositing them miles away. Waterspouts, which are essentially tornadoes that form over water, have been known to carry fish, frogs, and even small mammals for great distances. It's possible that these powerful storms, which are not uncommon in the region, could explain how the fish make their way from their aquatic homes to the streets of Yoro. While this theory seems grounded in meteorological science, there remain many unanswered questions. How do the fish survive the journey? And why do they only appear in this one specific area in such consistent patterns? The geography of Yoro is relatively unremarkable, and there are no large bodies of water nearby that would seem to account for the sheer quantity of fish that fall. Could there be something more at play here? Something that science has yet to fully comprehend? Some have even speculated that the phenomenon is linked to ancient rituals or hidden forces that are beyond our current understanding of nature. The regularity of the rain of fish, combined with the enduring cultural significance, leads some to ask whether it is truly a natural event, or a sign of something more profound. Could the event be connected to the ways in which local communities perceive their environment? Does the rain of fish symbolize a deeper, cyclical connection between the people and the land, or even the sky itself? There are also fringe theories that suggest the fish may not originate in the immediate surroundings of Yoro at all. Could there be hidden underground rivers or aquifers that are disturbed by seismic activity, causing fish to surface and be carried away by strong winds? Or is it possible that some kind of unknown atmospheric event is triggering the phenomenon, a disturbance in the natural order of things that we are yet to fully understand? Despite the many hypotheses, one thing is clear. The rain of fish continues to defy a simple explanation. Over the years, scientists and journalists have traveled to Yoro to document the phenomenon, yet no one has been able to offer a definitive answer. The event is a reminder of the vastness of the unknown, of the many natural wonders that continue to surprise and baffle us. For the people of Yoro, the rain of fish is not merely an oddity. It is part of their cultural identity, woven into the fabric of their history. They celebrate the event with a festival, drawing people from all over the world to witness this bizarre and beautiful occurrence. For them, it is a testament to the wonder of the world, a reminder that there are still mysteries out there that can never be fully explained. Perhaps the most fascinating part of the rain of fish is that, despite centuries of inquiry, the true cause remains as elusive as ever. It challenges our perceptions of the world, forcing us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the depths of our curiosity. What if, after all these years, the rain of fish is not just a freak meteorological occurrence, but a riddle we have yet to solve, a glimpse into a deeper, more mysterious connection between the natural world and the forces that govern it? What if the answers are just beyond our reach, hidden in the very air we breathe, or in the waters we take for granted? The rain of fish may have an explanation, but the search for it, much like the search for other mysteries in history, remains an invitation to wonder, to question, and to explore what is still hidden from our understanding. As we move from the rains of fish that fall in mysterious patterns above the streets of Yoro, we now turn our focus to a story that lies buried in the shadows of history. A story that concerns the vanishing of an entire army. A story that has perplexed historians for centuries, and one that still refuses to yield its secrets: the army of King Sancho II of Leon. The year was 1011, and the Kingdom of Leon, in what is now modern-day Spain, stood at the height of its power, a prosperous Christian kingdom surrounded by a mosaic of warring factions and rival realms. King Sancho II, the ambitious ruler of Leon, had just concluded a series of battles with the Moors in the south, and was now determined to solidify his kingdom's dominance. His army, composed of seasoned soldiers, mercenaries, and knights, marched from the capital city of Leon, prepared for yet another campaign. But something strange happened on that campaign. A mystery so unsettling that it remains unsolved to this day. The king's army, consisting of thousands of men, was on its way to the south, crossing the treacherous mountains of the Iberian Peninsula, when it simply disappeared. At first, it seemed like a typical story of war. The army could have been ambushed, scattered, or perhaps had suffered a heavy defeat. But as days turned to weeks and weeks into months, no word came from the men who had marched so confidently under King Sancho's banner. No reports, no prisoners, no remnants of a battle. The disappearance was total. The army, along with its leader, had vanished without a trace. Local villagers and travelers reported no signs of the army in the hills, and not a single piece of equipment or weaponry was found. The only thing left behind were the faint echoes of rumors. Some claimed the army had been swallowed by the mountains themselves, lost in the treacherous, snow-covered peaks that were notorious for being difficult to navigate. Others believed that a great betrayal had taken place, that Sancho II's trusted commanders had turned against him, and the soldiers were slaughtered in a surprise attack. Yet, no bodies, no mass graves, not even any blood was discovered in the area. The entire force seemed to have evaporated into thin air. The first chroniclers who attempted to capture the events were as baffled as we are now. The earliest known accounts, written by authors in the centuries following the disappearance, hinted at several explanations. none of which seemed to offer any definitive answers. One theory put forth was that the army, caught in a violent snowstorm, simply perished, their bodies swept away by avalanches or lost in the freezing winds. But this theory failed to explain why there was no evidence of such a catastrophe. No remnants of a fallen army, no tracks, and no signs of struggle. Over time, more speculative theories emerged. Some historians suggest that King Sancho II, desperate for victory and believing the gods were with him, may have marched his army into a cursed region, one that had long been whispered about in local folklore. According to this version, the army's disappearance was the result of divine punishment, a retribution for overstepping their bounds. Could it be that the soldiers had crossed into a forbidden land, cursed by the spirits of those who had lived there long before? A more practical explanation is that the army might have been caught in a well-organized ambush by local guerrilla fighters or by rival factions, leading to their complete disintegration. Yet, the absence of any survivors or prisoners suggests that this was no ordinary battle. If such a large force had been overwhelmed, surely there would have been some trace, some sign of the conflict, even if only in the form of small skirmishes. Perhaps the most intriguing theory, though, is the idea that the army did not vanish at all. Some believe that Sancho II's army, weary of war and disillusioned by their king, may have simply deserted, retreating into the remote and rugged mountains of northern Spain. Some even suggest that the soldiers, in a moment of profound disillusionment, defected to the Moors, offering their allegiance to the very enemies they had fought for so long. But again, this explanation is riddled with complications. Why would no one in the kingdom have heard of such a betrayal? Why would the Moors, if they had accepted the army, not have boasted of such a victory? Yet, the most unsettling aspect of the entire mystery is the complete lack of any conclusive evidence. In the years that followed the disappearance, no body was ever found, no battlefield ever uncovered. The roads, the mountains, the lands where the army had marched remained eerily silent. No ruins, no remnants of civilization, no ancient battlefield markers to tell the tale. The king, too, vanished along with his men, and his fate remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of Spanish history. Modern historians continue to argue over the details of this disappearance. Some believe it was a series of unfortunate events, a confluence of bad weather, disease, and desertion. Others point to the idea that the army might have been caught in a supernatural event, or possibly a massive, undiscovered natural disaster that wiped them out. Could there have been a volcanic eruption, an earthquake, or another catastrophic event that simply erased any trace of the army? In truth, we may never know what happened to the vanishing army of King Sancho II. The mystery of their disappearance is as vast and elusive as the mountains themselves, and despite countless attempts to unravel it, no conclusive answers have emerged. Perhaps the greatest mystery lies not in the disappearance of the army, but in the absence of a story that can tie the threads of this vanished chapter together. What did King Sancho know? Was he aware of the risks his army faced? Or did he march them into oblivion, hoping for an impossible victory? The answers remain hidden in the ancient mountains of northern Spain, waiting for someone, or something, to bring them to light. Until then, the army of King Sancho II remains an enigma, a chapter of history that refuses to be fully written, a mystery that might never be solved. As the echoes of King Sancho II's vanishing army fade into the recesses of history, we now turn our attention to a mystery from the cold, fog-drenched landscapes of Russia, one that blurs the lines between the natural and the supernatural. This is the tale of the strange lights over Novgorod, a phenomenon that has mystified both the people of this ancient city and the modern world. Novgorod, one of the oldest cities in Russia, lies on the banks of the Volkhov River, surrounded by the vast forests of the Russian north. Its history stretches back over 1,000 years, dating to the time of the Kievan Rus, when it was a powerful and prosperous trading hub. Today, the city is known for its medieval churches and fortresses, relics of a time when it was a center of commerce, culture, and power. Yet beneath the serene landscape and the weight of history, something strange and unexplained has lingered in the skies above, something that has never been fully understood. For centuries, there have been reports of mysterious lights hovering over the city, often described as glowing orbs or fiery disks that seem to dance and flicker in the sky. These lights, typically seen in the dead of night, appear in patterns that defy conventional explanation. At times, they have been described as pulsing or swirling, other times as motionless but radiant, like silent sentinels keeping watch over the land. The earliest recorded sightings of these lights date back to the 12th century. Chroniclers of the time described strange heavenly lights appearing over the city, visible to the people of Novgorod, and often accompanied by a sense of awe and trepidation. Some believed the lights were a sign from the gods, an omen of impending change or disaster. Others thought they might be the result of natural phenomena, perhaps the reflection of moonlight on the ice, or the flicker of distant fires. But the reports continued, suggesting that there was something far more complex at play. By the 16th and 17th centuries, reports of these strange lights became more frequent. Witnesses claimed to see glowing orbs that seemed to move erratically, their trajectories not consistent with any known flying object. These lights were often said to hover above the rooftops of Novgorod, sometimes splitting into several smaller lights that darted across the sky. On occasion, they would vanish as quickly as they appeared, leaving behind only the unsettled feeling that something inexplicable had just occurred. As time passed, the mystery deepened. In the 20th century, when the phenomenon was reported again by residents of Novgorod, the lights were seen not only as a curious oddity, but as a symbol of something more, something that might connect Novgorod to the greater mysteries of the world. Local witnesses who saw the lights during the Cold War era reported that the lights often seemed to appear during times of political tension or unrest, fueling speculation that they might be connected to secret military activity or advanced technology. Was it possible that the strange lights were the result of some undiscovered natural phenomenon, perhaps an atmospheric anomaly caused by the unique geography of the region? Some scientists have suggested that the lights could be caused by St. Elmo's fire, a phenomenon where a visible blue glow appears on pointed objects, like church spires or the tops of trees, during thunderstorms. However, this would not account for the sustained, seemingly purposeful movements of the lights or their frequent reappearance in different forms over the centuries. Others have pointed to more speculative explanations, suggesting that the lights might be connected to UFOs or extraterrestrial activity. Could the orbs be the result of craft from another world, observing or even interacting with the people of Novgorod? This theory has been further fueled by reports from other parts of Russia, where similar sightings of unexplained lights have occurred, particularly in areas with historical significance. The lights in Novgorod, then, might not be isolated, but part of a larger global phenomenon, a connection that stretches across centuries and cultures. Yet, perhaps the most intriguing theory is one that ties the strange lights to an ancient Russian legend. According to local folklore, the lights are not just lights at all, but the spirits of the past, guardians of Novgorod, sent to protect the city and its people from disaster. These ethereal beings are said to be connected to the land itself, their luminous forms rising from the earth to maintain a kind of spiritual balance. In this theory, the lights are not of extraterrestrial origin, but of a deeply spiritual one, tied to the land and its long history. In the 21st century, with the advent of modern technology and the increase in satellite imagery, some have suggested that the lights over Novgorod could be the result of military activity or even the testing of secret experimental aircraft? Could it be that these sightings are connected to undisclosed government projects, perhaps testing advanced aircraft or new types of weaponry? While these explanations remain speculative, they do provide a grounded context for understanding the phenomenon, even if they don't fully explain the longevity or consistency of the lights across the centuries. Yet, despite all these theories, the strange lights over Novgorod remain an unsolved mystery. No one has been able to definitively explain their origin, nor has anyone been able to predict when or where the lights will appear again. They continue to defy the conventional explanations, refusing to fit neatly into the categories of natural phenomena, folklore, or even scientific discovery. What are the strange lights over Novgorod? Are they simply an atmospheric quirk, a result of the interplay between the land and the sky? Or do they represent something far deeper, an enigma that challenges our understanding of both the natural and supernatural worlds? Could they be a warning, a sign, or a message from a forgotten past, waiting to be deciphered? As the mystery of these lights continues to linger, one thing remains certain. The skies over Novgorod have witnessed a phenomenon unlike any other, and the question of what those lights truly are may never be fully answered. As we leave behind the strange lights that flicker over the ancient city of Novgorod, our journey takes us to another corner of the world, a land where myth, history, and mystery converge beneath the northern lights. In Iceland, a saga of lost knowledge and vanishing history lingers, etched in the pages of a book that once held the key to understanding a civilization long past. This is the story of the Flatey book and its missing pages, a tale that has haunted scholars and historians for centuries. The Flatey book, or Flatey Jarbók, is one of the most significant medieval manuscripts in Icelandic history. Crafted in the 14th century, this monumental book is a compendium of Icelandic sagas, chronicles, and historical accounts, many of which are crucial to understanding the island's medieval past. It is a treasure trove of stories, some legendary, some historical, woven together to preserve a cultural identity and a heritage that might otherwise have been lost to time. The book's origins are as mysterious as the missing pages it holds. Thought to have been commissioned by the monks of the Flatey Island Monastery in the 1380s, it stands as a testament to the rich literary tradition of Iceland, one that flourished long before the nation was fully integrated into the Danish kingdom. The Flatey book itself is an awe-inspiring work. Its pages, still meticulously preserved today, hold a wealth of knowledge: tales of Norse gods and heroes, genealogies of kings, and accounts of early Christianization in Iceland. The book was handcrafted with remarkable care, decorated with intricate illustrations and colorful illuminations that add a visual richness to the text. But despite its vast importance, something was lost in the centuries that followed its creation. Several pages of the manuscript, perhaps as many as a dozen, vanished over time, leaving behind an enduring mystery. How could such an important book, one that had been passed down through generations of Icelandic scholars, lose its precious pages? The missing portions of the Flatey book are not just ordinary leaves of paper. They are key parts of the manuscript's historical and literary significance. The missing pages contained sections of sagas and stories that may have offered deeper insights into Viking-era Iceland, its politics, and its relationship with other medieval kingdoms. These were no mere footnotes in the annals of history. They were critical pieces of the puzzle. The first indication that something was amiss came in the 17th century, when Icelandic scholars began to notice that portions of the manuscript were missing. While the Flatey book was safely stored in various libraries and archives over the centuries, its apparent incomplete state raised questions about its preservation. Some believed that the missing pages had been removed intentionally, perhaps by a later owner who took them for personal reasons, or even by those who wished to conceal the knowledge contained within them. Others speculated that the pages had been lost during the tumultuous periods in Iceland's history, when invasions, Natural disasters and political upheaval often left libraries and manuscripts in disarray. By the time the Flatey book made its way to Denmark in the 19th century, where it was studied extensively by scholars, it had become clear that something crucial had been lost. The absence of the pages remained a mystery, and with it, the unanswered questions about what those pages might have contained. Were they simply torn out, or had they been deliberately destroyed? Several theories have been put forward to explain the loss. One of the more practical explanations is that the pages were removed for reasons of convenience. Perhaps the missing sections were separated from the rest of the manuscript when the book was being handled, mistreated or even dismantled during a period of financial hardship when books were often sold for their material value. Another theory points to the possibility of intentional removal by individuals who sought to protect or hide the stories within those pages. Was it a deliberate act by a person, or even a group, with the power to suppress certain historical narratives? Could these missing pages have revealed uncomfortable truths about Iceland's early history, its relationships with neighboring kingdoms, or even the true nature of its conversion to Christianity? Yet, there is another, more speculative theory. Could the missing pages have been lost to something more mysterious? Some have suggested that the pages could have been taken by supernatural forces or by individuals with an interest in the esoteric. Iceland, with its long tradition of folklore and tales of magic, offers fertile ground for such theories. Could there have been a belief that the stories held within the missing pages were too powerful, too dangerous, and needed to be hidden from the world? As much as the Flatey book represents Iceland's rich literary past, its missing pages also serve as a haunting reminder of what has been lost to history. The absence of these pages has not only frustrated historians, but has also inspired a sense of longing among those who yearn to uncover the full scope of Iceland's past. If those pages could be found, what secrets might they reveal? Could they contain new insights into Iceland's Viking origins, its early Christian struggles, or its place within the larger context of medieval Europe? Despite numerous efforts to trace the missing pages, no definitive answers have been found. Some believe they are still hidden in the vaults of long-forgotten libraries, perhaps tucked away in private collections or lost in obscure archives. Others suspect that the pages have been destroyed beyond recognition, leaving only the fragmented remnants of a once complete manuscript. Still, others wonder if the truth lies in a deeper mystery, one that may never be fully understood. The Flatey book is not just a historical artifact. It is a symbol of the fragility of knowledge, the way in which the past can slip through our fingers, no matter how carefully we try to preserve it. With its missing pages, the book is a poignant reminder that there are always parts of history that remain just out of reach, teasing us with what might have been. And so, the mystery endures. The missing pages of the Flatey book remain hidden, their secrets untold. What did they contain? And why were they taken, or lost? As with many great historical mysteries, the answers may be lost forever, but the questions will continue to haunt us, inviting us to wonder what still lies hidden, waiting to be discovered. As we leave behind the mystery of the missing pages of the Flatey book, we now turn our attention to another enigma, one that lies deep within the heart of France, hidden beneath the centuries of history that have shaped the country. In the serene countryside of Burgundy, the Cluny Abbey once stood as a towering beacon of monastic life, spiritual devotion, and cultural influence. Yet, beneath the awe-inspiring architecture and sacred halls, there is a lesser-known secret, a hidden chamber whose existence remains a subject of speculation and intrigue to this very day. Cluny Abbey, founded in 910 AD, was once one of the most powerful and influential monasteries in medieval Europe. Its vast complex, the largest church in Christendom before the construction of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, housed a community of monks whose dedication to reform and piety transformed the abbey into a center of education, culture, and power. The abbey's architecture was grand, its walls adorned with intricate carvings, its halls echoing with the sounds of Gregorian chants and the weight of centuries of religious devotion. But as with many places of great significance, there are hidden stories, those buried beneath the stone walls and forgotten by time. The most captivating of these stories is the legend of a hidden chamber within the abbey, one that may hold a treasure of immeasurable value, or perhaps knowledge long lost to history. This secret room, often referred to as the chambre cachée, or hidden chamber, has eluded discovery for centuries, and yet whispers of its existence continue to circulate among historians, archaeologists, and even treasure hunters. The earliest mention of the hidden chamber can be traced back to the late medieval period, when rumors began to circulate among the monks of Cluny. It was said that the abbey was home to a room that had been sealed off by its creators, a space concealed behind hidden doors or false walls, its contents hidden from the prying eyes of the outside world. Some claimed that the room held sacred relics, ancient artifacts thought to possess divine power. Others suggested that the chamber contained a treasure of gold and jewels, accumulated through the abbey's centuries of wealth and influence. But perhaps the most intriguing theory of all points to a far more cryptic idea, that the hidden chamber housed ancient knowledge, perhaps lost scrolls, manuscripts, or even a forgotten secret of the early Christian world, a knowledge that could change the course of history. As the centuries passed, Cluny Abbey's power began to wane. The abbey was slowly abandoned, its once grand structure decaying as time took its toll. The monks, who had once filled the abbey with prayer and scholarship, were scattered, and the abbey itself fell into ruin. By the time the French Revolution came, the abbey was all but destroyed, its treasures looted or lost to history. Yet, despite the abbey's decline, the legend of the hidden chamber endured. Some believed that the chamber was destroyed along with the abbey, while others held out hope that it still lay buried beneath the ruins, waiting to be uncovered. Modern-day attempts to locate the chamber have yielded little success. Archaeologists and historians have pored over old blueprints and maps, carefully examining the remaining structure of Cluny Abbey for any signs of a secret room. Some have pointed to an area beneath the abbey's foundations, where a series of false doors and hidden passages might conceal the long-lost chamber. Others have looked to the abbey's crypts, theorizing that the chamber might be located there, perhaps sealed away by the monks to protect its contents from invaders or thieves. But despite these efforts, no one has yet found conclusive evidence of the hidden chamber's existence. Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the abbey's architecture itself. The design of Cluny Abbey was no ordinary feat of construction. The abbey's builders, skilled in both sacred and secular knowledge, incorporated complex systems of symbolism and geometry into their work. It is not beyond reason to consider that the monks may have intentionally created a hidden room, one that could only be accessed by those with the right knowledge, or perhaps a divine calling. Could the abbey's design, with its intricate layout and hidden chambers, hold the key to locating this elusive space? And yet, despite the various theories and investigations, the mystery remains unsolved. What exactly lies hidden in the chambre cachée? Was it, as some have speculated, a treasure trove of religious relics, or something far more enigmatic, perhaps a lost manuscript or a map to a long-forgotten location? Could it be that the chamber contains the answers to questions that have remained unanswered for centuries? And if the chamber does exist, why was it hidden in the first place? Was it to protect its contents from theft? Or was there something more mysterious at play? A desire to keep knowledge or power locked away, concealed from the world? Some have even proposed that the chamber might not be a physical space at all, but rather a metaphorical one, representing hidden knowledge or a spiritual truth that can only be revealed through inner discovery. In this view, the chambre cachée is not merely a room to be found, but an idea to be understood. Could the monks of Cluny have been guarding something far more elusive, something that transcends the material world? In the end, the mystery of Cluny Abbey's hidden chamber remains an open question, one that continues to inspire wonder and curiosity. As the Abbey's stone walls crumble and the years pass, the whispers of what may lie buried within them only grow louder. Perhaps one day, someone will uncover the truth. But for now, the hidden chamber of Cluny Abbey remains just that, hidden. And with it, the tantalizing possibility that there is still more to the history of this remarkable place than we have yet discovered. What lies beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed? Only time will tell. From the hidden chambers of Cluny Abbey, where centuries of secrets may still lie buried, we now travel to the towering heights of the Alps, a place where mystery and natural phenomena converge in the form of one of the strangest events ever recorded in the annals of history. Here, in the frigid air of the high mountains, there have been reports of a most unusual and unexplained occurrence, the phenomenon of burning snow. These snow fires, as some have called them, have mystified generations of travelers, scientists, and historians alike. To this day, the truth behind the burning snow of the Alps remains as elusive as the mountain peaks themselves. The Alps, with their jagged peaks and sprawling glaciers, are a breathtaking sight. Covered in snow for most of the year, the mountain range stretches across 8 countries, including France, Switzerland, Italy, and Austria. Towering above the villages and valleys below, the Alps have long been the setting for both tales of adventure and stories of danger. Yet, amidst their beauty and their majesty, the Alps are also home to a phenomenon that has defied rational explanation for centuries: the burning snow. The first recorded sightings of this mysterious event can be traced back to the 16th century. Accounts describe snow-covered landscapes where the surface of the snow seemed to glow with an eerie, unnatural light. In some reports, the snow was said to catch fire, with flames rising from the snowdrifts in the dead of winter. Some witnesses described the flames as blue or green, while others noted a faint, almost ethereal glow. In each case, the snow appeared to burn without leaving behind any trace of combustion, and the temperature remained sub-zero, far too cold for conventional fire to take hold. Over the centuries, these strange reports continued. In the 19th century, during the height of the Romantic movement, the phenomenon gained attention from explorers and writers who were fascinated by the Alps mysteries. Some of the earliest scientific investigations into the burning snow came from these explorers, who sought to understand the cause of this phenomenon. Various explanations were proposed, from the chemical reactions of snow and sunlight to the presence of rare gases or minerals within the snowpack. Yet, none of these theories seemed to offer a satisfactory explanation for the full range of reports. The idea that the snow was somehow reacting to sunlight was quickly ruled out, as the phenomenon was often observed at night or during cloudy, overcast days. The suggestion that rare gases or minerals could cause the snow to burn was also dismissed, as no conclusive evidence was found to support this theory. And so, the mystery persisted. Some more speculative explanations have emerged over time, each more intriguing than the last. Could the burning snow be the result of some sort of supernatural or spiritual force? In the 17th century, some locals believed that the fires were the result of a curse, perhaps a warning from the gods or spirits that inhabited the mountains. According to this view, the snow fires were seen as omens, signaling impending doom or disaster. Was there a deeper connection between the mountains and the forces of nature that was beyond human understanding? Others have posited a more natural but still unexplained origin for the phenomenon. Some believe that the burning snow could be the result of a rare weather pattern or atmospheric condition, one that has yet to be fully understood by modern science. In this theory, It is suggested that certain conditions, perhaps involving the buildup of static electricity or the interaction of atmospheric gases, could create a situation in which the snow appears to burn, without actually catching fire in the conventional sense. Could it be that the burning snow is a manifestation of a rare but natural event that we have yet to fully understand? One of the most intriguing, though highly speculative explanations comes from the realm of ancient knowledge and forgotten sciences. Some theorists suggest that the burning snow is a remnant of ancient rituals or practices, possibly even related to alchemy or early attempts at manipulating the natural world. Could it be that the phenomenon of burning snow was once known to those who lived in the mountains centuries ago, and that it is somehow linked to lost knowledge that modern science cannot explain? The idea that the Alps were once home to forgotten mysteries of alchemical fire or mystical energy is, of course, highly speculative. But it adds an element of intrigue to the otherwise inexplicable nature of the event. Perhaps the most curious aspect of the burning snow phenomenon is that, despite centuries of reports, there are no clear or consistent scientific records to explain it. Modern-day investigations into the phenomenon continue to yield inconclusive results, and many of the old accounts of burning snow are dismissed as folklore or exaggerated tales from the past. Still, there remains a persistent belief among locals and historians that something extraordinary happens in the mountains, a mystery that science has yet to unlock. Could the burning snow of the Alps be a natural event, yet to be fully understood by modern science? Or is there something deeper, something that escapes the grasp of rational explanation, lurking in the cold and remote expanse of the mountains? With each new generation, the mystery persists, just as the glowing snow persists on those rare, quiet nights in the Alps. And so, the question remains unanswered. What causes the snow to burn in the Alps? Is it the result of an unknown atmospheric phenomenon, a rare interaction of natural forces, or perhaps something more mysterious, an ancient secret hidden deep within the mountains? As we continue to search for answers, the burning snow continues to haunt the cold, silent peaks, waiting to reveal its secrets, if only we are able to uncover them. The truth may be closer than we think, or perhaps it is meant to remain hidden forever, locked away in the frozen heart of the Alps. As we leave behind the smoldering snow of the Alps, our journey now takes us to a northern corner of the world, a place where the winds of time have swept away a crucial chapter of history. The Orkney Islands, a scattered archipelago off the northeastern coast of Scotland, are home to a mystery as elusive as the winds themselves. It is here, in these remote and rugged islands, that the records of the Orkney Earldom, one of the most powerful and storied political entities of medieval Scotland, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a silence that has echoed through the centuries. The Orkney Islands, with their stark cliffs and rolling hills, have long been a crossroads of culture and history. They sit at the convergence of the North Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, a maritime gateway that once linked Scotland to the Viking world, and through them, the wider medieval Norse kingdom. The islands were ruled for centuries by powerful earls, whose lineage traced back to Norse kings, and their influence stretched across the northern seas, from the Shetlands to parts of mainland Scotland. The Orkney Earldom itself was a formidable force in the Viking Age. By the 12th century, the earls were among the wealthiest and most influential leaders in the region, with control over a vast network of lands and islands. The earls' reign, which began with the Norse settlement of the islands in the 9th century, continued until the 15th century, when the earldom was formally annexed by Scotland. Despite the Orkney Earls' significance in medieval history, much of their legacy has been obscured by a gap in the historical record. The archives that once held the key to understanding their rule, written documents, charters, and royal decrees, simply disappeared. The loss of these records has long been a source of intrigue for historians. How could such an important archive, one that chronicled centuries of powerful rule, vanish without a trace. The earliest indication that something was amiss came in the 16th century. As historians and scholars sought to piece together the history of the Orkney Earldom, they found themselves facing a troubling absence. While there were numerous references to the earls in other documents, letters, royal decrees, and chronicles, there were no surviving records from the earldom itself. It was as though the official history of the Orkney earls had simply ceased to exist. Several theories have been proposed to explain this disappearance. One of the more conventional explanations points to the passage of time and the fragility of medieval records. Paper and parchment, the primary materials used for writing during this period, were prone to deterioration. Fire, water damage, and the ravages of age could easily erase documents that were centuries old. In this view, the Orkney Earldom's records might have simply succumbed to the ravages of time and natural disaster. However, this explanation does not account for the complete absence of any surviving records from a government that was so intricately involved in the politics of the time. Another theory suggests that the records were deliberately destroyed. The 15th century, when the Orkney Earldom was formally annexed by Scotland, was a period of significant political upheaval. The Orkney Earls, once autonomous rulers, had to cede their power to the Scottish crown. Could it be that the records of the earldom were intentionally erased as part of a larger political strategy? Some historians speculate that, in an effort to consolidate power and suppress any remnants of Viking influence, the Scottish monarchy may have ordered the destruction of the records to sever the connection between the islands and their Norse past. This theory is bolstered by the fact that the 15th century was a time of political manipulation and control, when records were often altered or destroyed to shape the narrative of history. Yet, even more speculative theories have been suggested, theories that delve into the realms of the mysterious and the unexplained. Some have pointed to the possibility of hidden caches of documents, buried deep within the islands themselves. Could it be that the records were deliberately concealed, hidden away in secret chambers, waiting to be discovered? Given the strategic importance of the Orkney Islands, which were at the crossroads of Norse and Scottish influence, it's conceivable that someone, perhaps a rebellious faction or a rival faction of the Earls, may have hidden the records to preserve the knowledge for future generations. In this context, the disappearance of the records takes on an air of mystery. Was it truly a case of mundane loss, or was there something more deliberate at work? Could the documents have been hidden by individuals who wanted to protect the Orkney Earldom's legacy from being erased by the dominant powers of Scotland? Adding to the intrigue, some have proposed a more fringe theory, that the Orkney Earldom's records were stolen by foreign powers. The 12th and 13th centuries saw the rise of several powerful states, including Norway and Denmark, who had an interest in the strategic value of the islands. Could the records have been taken across the seas, to be kept hidden in the archives of foreign kingdoms, in an effort to preserve a part of Norse history? This would explain why no trace of the records has ever been found, if they were never in the possession of Scottish historians or archivists in the first place. Finally, there are those who consider the possibility that the disappearance of the Orkney Earldom records might be linked to something far more profound. Could there have been knowledge contained within those documents, perhaps a secret history or a lost understanding of the Norse world, that was seen as too dangerous to reveal? Could the records have been hidden or destroyed to protect a knowledge that was considered too powerful or subversive for the time? And so, as the mystery of the Orkney Earldom's vanished records endures, one thing is certain: the story of the earldom, once among the most powerful in the north, remains incomplete. The disappearance of these records leaves a gap in our understanding of the medieval world, and the unanswered questions surrounding their loss continue to spark curiosity. Where are the records now? Were they destroyed, hidden, or stolen? And what might they have revealed about the rise and fall of one of the most fascinating political entities in Northern Europe? For now, the answers remain elusive, leaving us to wonder what secrets may still lie buried beneath the surface of history, waiting to be uncovered, if only we know where to look. As we leave behind the echoes of the Orkney Earldom's lost records, our journey now carries us to the rolling green hills of Ireland, where another enigma quietly lingers in the shadows of history. Here, in the small village of Kells, lies a mystery that has baffled historians, archaeologists, and the faithful alike. The silent bells of Kells. Kells, a town steeped in centuries of history, is most famous for the Book of Kells, an illuminated manuscript that is one of the greatest treasures of early medieval Christian art. Yet, the bells that once called the faithful to prayer in this sacred place remain just as much a part of the town's lore. Or rather, don't remain, for it is the absence of their sound that raises the question, why do the bells of Kells remain silent, despite their presence? At the heart of the mystery lies the 12th century Kells Abbey, which was founded by monks seeking refuge from Viking raids. The abbey grew to become a center of learning, faith, and culture, housing the famous Book of Kells. The abbey's bells, like those in monasteries across medieval Europe, were once a source of spiritual significance. They rang out at the hours of prayer, marking the passage of time for the monks who lived in seclusion. But in the centuries that followed, the bells of Kells fell silent. The bells themselves are still present today, at least some of them. The most notable of these is a set of bells that were said to have been used in the abbey during the Middle Ages. Today, 2 of these bells are displayed in the town's museum, still encased in their ancient frames, their clappers still resting still within. However, despite their historical significance, the bells have never rung in living memory, and no one seems to know why. The earliest accounts of the bells describe them as having been used for both ceremonial and practical purposes, summoning the monks to prayer, marking the beginning and end of their daily duties, and calling the people of the village to church. Bells were central to the rhythm of monastic life, and the bells of Kells were no exception. But after the dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century, when the abbey was abandoned and the monks were forced to leave, the bells ceased their ringing. It is worth noting that Kells Abbey was not alone in this fate. Many monasteries and religious institutions across Ireland and Europe faced similar fates during this turbulent period. The English crown, under the rule of Henry VIII, sought to suppress the power of the church and confiscate its wealth. As a result, many abbeys, churches, and monasteries were abandoned, destroyed, or repurposed. The bells were often melted down for their metal, or simply abandoned, left to decay in forgotten towers. In the case of Kells Abbey, the bells were spared from the melting pot, but never rang again. Yet, the silence of the bells is not entirely explainable by historical events alone. Some have speculated that the silence of the bells is linked to a more unusual and unsettling possibility. Could it be that the bells of Kells are cursed? Over the centuries, various accounts have surfaced that speak of a curse associated with the bells. In the late 19th century, some locals claimed that the bells had been silenced after the monks who once inhabited the abbey were forced to leave under mysterious circumstances. According to this story, the bells were thought to have been cursed by the monks as a final act of defiance. It was said that the bells would never ring again until the curse was lifted. This theory, however, remains speculative, with no evidence to back up the claims of a curse. In more recent times, the silence of the bells has led to a more practical theory, that the bells are simply too fragile to be rung. Centuries of weather, wear, and tear have taken their toll on the ancient instruments, and some believe that ringing the bells might damage them irreparably. Others have suggested that the bells were intentionally silenced by later generations, perhaps out of fear that their sound would disturb the peace of the community or the sanctity of the place. There is also the possibility that the silence of the bells is a reflection of a deeper, more symbolic purpose. Bells, after all, are not just instruments of sound, they are also symbols of spiritual connection and divine presence. Could it be that the silence of the bells was meant to serve as a reminder, a way of acknowledging the absence of the monks, and with them, the vibrant religious life that once filled Kells Abbey? In this sense, the silence could be seen not as a loss, but as a deliberate choice, preserving the sacred space in a different way. Some even suggest that the bells were never meant to be rung again. A fringe theory proposes that the bells of Kells were part of an ancient tradition, an esoteric practice known only to the monks of the abbey, one that involved the bells being silenced to preserve a sacred secret. According to this theory, the monks of Kells may have believed that ringing the bells would release a hidden knowledge too powerful to be shared with the outside world. The silence, then, is not a sign of neglect, but of a sacred vow. As we reflect on the silent bells of Kells, we are left with many questions. Why did the bells fall silent after the dissolution of the abbey? Was it the result of historical upheaval, or was there a more deliberate, hidden reason? Could it be that the bells are cursed, or is their silence a conscious choice made by those who came after the monks? And what is the true significance of the bells themselves? Are they mere relics of a bygone era, or do they hold a deeper meaning, one that we have yet to uncover? The silence of the bells remains a mystery, one that continues to intrigue and haunt those who seek to understand the true story of Kells Abbey. What secrets might still lie hidden in the stillness? Only time, and perhaps the sound of a single bell ringing out once more, can tell. As we move from the silent bells of Kells to another enigmatic corner of history, we find ourselves in the heart of France, standing before the grand, ancient cathedral of Chartres. Its soaring spires reach towards the sky, touching the heavens in a way that has inspired awe for over 1,000 years. Chartres Cathedral, with its intricate stained glass windows and Gothic architecture, has long been a place of pilgrimage, devotion, and mystery. But hidden within the cathedral's storied past lies one of the most inexplicable events ever recorded: a fire that would not burn. It was 1194, and the Cathedral of Chartres, an imposing structure even by today's standards, was already a significant religious site, revered for its sacred relic, the veil of the Virgin Mary, a relic believed to have been worn by the Virgin during the birth of Christ. The fire that would become infamous in the cathedral's history erupted on the night of June 10th, 1194. As flames engulfed the building, they spread quickly through the wooden roof, consuming everything in their path. The fire was so fierce that it seemed certain the cathedral would be lost to the flames, just as so many medieval buildings had been before it. Yet, as the fire raged on, something strange occurred. The flames, despite their intensity, failed to destroy the most significant parts of the cathedral. The walls, the pillars, and even the sacred relic, the veil of the Virgin, miraculously survived unscathed. It is said that the fire burned for hours, yet the stone structure remained intact, with little more than the roof consumed by the inferno. When the fire was finally quelled, those who witnessed it were left in stunned disbelief. How could a building of this magnitude, so large and with so much combustible material, have been so resilient? Why did the fire, which had been so deadly and destructive to everything around it, leave the walls of Chartres Cathedral untouched? The first and most logical explanation that emerged was that the fire, though intense, was in fact not as widespread as originally believed. Some suggested that the wind had shifted during the night, sparing parts of the cathedral from the full force of the flames. Others proposed that the fire had somehow burned in a more controlled manner, consuming the roof but leaving the stonework of the walls and the relics behind. But this explanation, though plausible, does not seem to account for the miraculous preservation of the sacred veil of the Virgin, which many believe to have been in the cathedral during the fire. Was it simply good fortune that spared these irreplaceable relics, or was there something more to the story? Over time, the mystery deepened. While mainstream explanations focused on the wind and the spread of the fire, others began to entertain more unusual possibilities. Some speculated that the fire had been caused by something supernatural, something beyond the natural laws of combustion. Could there have been an unseen force, an inexplicable event, that prevented the flames from claiming their full toll on the cathedral? Some whispered of divine intervention, suggesting that the hand of God had spared the cathedral for reasons that could only be understood by those who truly had faith. After all, Chartres Cathedral had long been regarded as one of the holiest sites in medieval Christendom. Could it be that the fire was not an ordinary fire at all? The most intriguing theory, however, comes from those who believe that the event was a sign or a warning, one that may have been hidden from most. There are those who claim that the fire in Chartres was part of a larger cosmic or mystical event, an event that transcended the ordinary world and was linked to the spiritual and esoteric traditions of the time. Chartres, after all, had long been a site of pilgrimage not only for the devout, but also for those interested in the more mystical aspects of Christianity and the occult. Some have suggested that the fire was connected to the idea of a hidden or sacred knowledge, one that could only be revealed through a catastrophic event like this. Could the fire have been a ritual of sorts, part of a larger mystery of the cosmos and its relationship to the sacred? For many, the most compelling aspect of the mystery is the fact that the fire seems to defy logic. Modern science has examined the event, considering everything from the properties of medieval stone construction to the possibility of natural fire breaks in the landscape around the cathedral. But no explanation fully accounts for the apparent preservation of such an important religious site in the face of an otherwise devastating fire. Could it be that something was intentionally preserved in the architecture of Chartres, a design perhaps that was intended to protect the building from such disasters? Some claim that the layout of the cathedral, its location, and even the positioning of certain sacred elements within it were meant to serve as a safeguard against destruction. Alternatively, a fringe theory suggests that the events surrounding the fire could be linked to alchemical traditions that were pervasive in medieval Europe. Alchemists of the time were known to believe in the existence of mysterious, hidden forces that could influence the physical world. Could it be that Chartres, a cathedral of both Christian and mystical significance, had been designed with these forces in mind? Were the miraculous events of 1194 part of an alchemical process, one that sought to transcend the physical and reach into the spiritual realm? In more recent years, some have even considered the possibility that the fire of 1194 was part of a larger tradition of sacred sites that were designed to withstand destruction in the most unusual of circumstances. Could Chartres Cathedral have been built not just as a place of worship, but as a cosmic vessel, a structure imbued with hidden knowledge or power, one that would never be completely destroyed by the forces of nature? The fire that would not burn in Chartres remains a fascinating and perplexing event in the history of both religion and architecture. No explanation, whether scientific, mystical, or religious, fully satisfies the questions it raises. Could it have been a miracle, a cosmic event, or simply a lucky coincidence that saved one of the world's greatest cathedrals? As we continue to explore the mysteries of the past, we are reminded that some questions may never have clear answers. And perhaps, in this case, the mystery itself is what makes the story of the fire that would not burn so compelling. So, as we stand before the still majestic Chartres Cathedral, we are left to wonder, was it truly divine intervention that spared it? As we leave behind the miraculous fire of Chartres, our journey now takes us eastward, to a city steeped in centuries of mystique and ancient history, Prague. The cobbled streets of this city, once the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, are laced with secrets, whispers of legends, mysteries, and strange phenomena that refuse to fade with time. But among all the eerie tales that have woven themselves into the fabric of this historic place, none is more unsettling than the phenomenon of the shadow figures of Prague. Prague, with its majestic spires, ancient bridges, and winding alleys, holds an atmosphere of both beauty and enigma. The city is a labyrinth of history, from the Romanesque architecture of St. George's Basilica to the Gothic grandeur of St. Vitus Cathedral. In the dim light of early morning or as dusk falls, Prague transforms into something otherworldly, a place where past and present seem to overlap, and the shadows seem to have a life of their own. But it is not just the architecture or the history that gives Prague its haunting charm. Over the centuries, many who have walked its streets and navigated its narrow corridors have reported sightings of strange, human-like figures that appear in the shadows, moving with an eerie sense of purpose but never quite fully manifesting in the light. These shadow figures, dark and indistinct, are said to emerge at nightfall, moving across the walls of the city, slipping in and out of sight, as if they are part of the very fabric of the place itself. The first accounts of these shadow figures date back to the 16th century, when Prague was a bustling center of alchemy, mysticism, and dark secrets. During this time, the city was alive with rumors of hidden knowledge, arcane rituals, and occult practices, and it was not uncommon for people to claim they had seen strange things, unseen forces in the corners of their vision, figures slipping through the shadows, never quite seen, but always felt. For centuries, these sightings were dismissed as the result of too much wine, an overactive imagination, or the tales of those eager to stir superstition. However, the stories persisted, and even today, in the modern streets of Prague, locals and visitors alike report seeing these elusive shadow figures. The most compelling sightings are often reported in the less traveled parts of the city, alleys, courtyards, and hidden passages where the light barely touches. According to these accounts, the figures are not merely fleeting glimpses of movement, but are often described in great detail. Tall, dark forms, sometimes humanoid in shape, other times formless, but with a palpable presence. Those who have seen them describe the figures as moving with unnatural speed, slipping between buildings or disappearing into cracks and crevices, as though they are not bound by the same rules of reality as the rest of us. But what are these figures? Theories abound, but none seem to provide a satisfactory explanation for the phenomenon. One of the more conventional explanations suggests that the shadow figures are a psychological or neurological phenomenon, a trick of the mind. These shadow people might be the result of sleep paralysis, a condition in which a person experiences vivid, often terrifying hallucinations while waking from a dream state. Or they could be the result of a heightened sensitivity to light and darkness in a city with such complex, narrow streets. Proponents of this theory suggest that when the mind is overstimulated or in a heightened state of anxiety, it can project shadows into the corners of one's vision, creating the illusion of figures that aren't really there. This explanation, however, fails to account for the consistency of the sightings over centuries. Could it be that this psychological phenomenon, if it exists, has been influencing people for generations in precisely the same way? And why do so many reports describe the figures in such similar terms, with the same feeling of presence and the same sense of unease? Others suggest that the shadow figures are manifestations of Prague's long and tumultuous history, a kind of collective memory trapped in the city's ancient walls. Prague, after all, has seen its share of bloodshed and strife. From the brutal suppression of uprisings to the dark years of war and occupation, the city has weathered a turbulent past. Could these shadow figures be the echoes of those who have died violently, their spirits or energies trapped in the very stones of the city? Some believe that these figures are not mere hallucinations, but rather manifestations of these restless souls, still lingering in the places where their lives were abruptly ended. This theory is supported by some of the darker corners of Prague's history. The city has long been a center of alchemical studies, where great minds, such as Emperor Rudolf II, sought to unlock the secrets of the universe, including those that might open doors to the supernatural. Was it during these occult experiments that something was inadvertently released into the shadows of the city? Perhaps these figures are the remnants of something beyond our understanding, trapped in a dimension that lies just beyond the visible. Another more speculative theory posits that the shadow figures could be time travelers or beings from an alternate reality. Could these shadows be glimpses of another world, a parallel universe where Prague exists, but slightly askew from the one we know? The idea that these figures might be visitors from another time or dimension has been suggested by those who study the phenomenon of time slips, when individuals have reported brief experiences of encountering different time periods or versions of places they know. Perhaps the shadow figures of Prague are a kind of ghostly echo, slipping through cracks in the fabric of time itself. Yet, there is still one more possibility, something that no amount of scientific explanation or historical inquiry can fully dismiss. Could these shadow figures be something that we simply cannot comprehend? Could they be manifestations of a deeper, hidden aspect of reality, something that exists just beneath the surface of our understanding, waiting to be uncovered? In a city like Prague, with its deep ties to mysticism, alchemy, and the unknown, is it possible that the shadow figures are part of a larger, more profound mystery, one that might not be solved by logic, but by something beyond our senses? As we stand in the heart of Prague, surrounded by its cobblestone streets and centuries-old buildings, we are left with more questions than answers. The shadow figures may never fully reveal their true nature, and the mystery of their existence may remain forever elusive. But as the shadows stretch long over the city at dusk, we cannot help but wonder, what lies hidden in the corners of our vision, just out of reach, waiting to slip into the light? And what might the shadow figures of Prague truly be? Ghosts of the past, echoes of a forgotten world, or something altogether more extraordinary? As we leave behind the shadows of Prague, we travel across the English countryside, where the stillness of ancient ruins echoes with untold stories. Here, in the North Yorkshire landscape, sits Byland Abbey, an austere and hauntingly beautiful site, now in ruins but once a thriving hub of monastic life. The air is thick with history, and as the wind howls through the skeletal remains of the abbey's stone walls, it's easy to imagine the presence of those who once walked here, quiet monks, their steps measured, their lives dedicated to prayer and silence. But there is one presence that haunts these ruins still today, a figure from the past whose appearance has stirred more questions than answers: the monk of Byland Abbey. The story begins centuries ago, during the Abbey's more prosperous days in the 12th century, when it was a key center of the Cistercian order. Byland Abbey was built in a secluded, remote location, its massive structure a testament to the dedication of the monks who resided there. This was a place where devotion to faith was absolute, where the silence was only broken by the murmur of prayers and the rhythmic sounds of daily monastic life. Yet, in the 19th century, something unusual began to stir the quiet of Byland's ancient stones. It was during this period that reports of a ghostly apparition began to surface, an apparition that would become known as the Monk of Byland. Witnesses, mostly travelers and locals, described seeing the figure of a monk, garbed in a dark robe, walking along the ruined corridors of the abbey. The figure was seen most often near the abbey's old chapter house or its decaying cloisters, walking with a slow, deliberate pace, his head bent as though deep in thought or prayer. The first sightings were brief, but they became increasingly frequent. One of the most striking encounters came from a group of Victorian visitors who described seeing the monk appear in the same spot on several occasions. The figure, they reported, was not transparent or ethereal, as one might expect from a traditional ghost, but solid, even physical in appearance. Yet, when they attempted to approach, the monk would disappear into thin air, vanishing without a trace. Others claimed to hear the faint sound of chanting or soft footsteps echoing through the ruins, but upon investigation, there was never anyone to be found. The monk's appearance seemed to be tied to the ruins themselves. Those who spent time at Byland Abbey after dusk often spoke of a chill in the air, an overwhelming sense of sorrow, or a sudden feeling of being watched. Some reported strange occurrences, unexplained cold spots in the otherwise mild air, strange drafts in sealed rooms, or the sound of chains dragging across stone floors when no one was there. Could it be that the Abbey, with its long history of monastic life and eventual ruin, had become a place where the past was unwilling to release its hold? Over time, the tale of the monk of Byland grew. Theories about his identity began to surface. Some believed that he was a monk who had once lived in the Abbey, a devoted soul who had been struck down in some tragic or violent manner. His spirit, they theorized, had been unable to find peace, trapped in the ruins of the Abbey where he had spent his life. According to one legend, the monk had been a man of great piety who was unjustly accused of a sin. Rather than face the judgment of his fellow brothers, he chose to take his own life, and it was his restless spirit that wandered the Abbey in eternal penance. Other theories are less specific but no less intriguing. Some suggest that the monk might not be a single individual at all, but rather the manifestation of the many souls who had lived and died at Byland Abbey over the centuries. The Abbey's history is steeped in struggle and hardship, the constant fight against the encroaching English monarchy, the plagues that swept through the land, and the eventual dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII, which saw Byland Abbey abandoned and forgotten. Could the monk, in fact, be the collective spirit of all those who had suffered here, a soul bound by the history of the place itself? Alternatively, some speculate that the monk of Byland could be the result of the Abbey's unique architecture. The Cistercians were known for their austere, minimalist designs, and Byland Abbey was no different. Its simple, open layout might have created an environment where the echoes of voices and sounds could reverberate strangely, creating the illusion of ghostly footsteps or whispered chants. Perhaps the monk was simply a trick of the mind, a lingering memory of the Abbey's past that became more vivid as time wore on. But what about the persistent feeling of being watched, the cold spots, the vanishing monk who never seems to stay in one place? Could these phenomena be the result of something far beyond the boundaries of natural explanation? In a place like Byland Abbey, steeped in the energy of centuries of religious fervor and eventual ruin, it's not hard to imagine that something of the past could linger, clinging to the stones, to the very air, as though unwilling to let go. The most compelling aspect of the monk's apparition, however, is the sheer consistency of the reports. Over the years, countless visitors to Byland Abbey have experienced similar phenomena, from the same description of the monk's appearance to the same sensations of dread or inexplicable coldness. Is it possible that Byland Abbey is simply a place where the past refuses to be forgotten, where history and memory collide in a vivid spectral manifestation? And so, the mystery of the monk of Byland Abbey endures, continuing to haunt the ruins of one of England's most enigmatic landmarks. Whether a restless spirit seeking redemption or a mere figment of collective memory, the monk remains a figure that both terrifies and fascinates. The stories that surround him are part of a larger tapestry, a connection between the past and the present, one that raises more questions than it answers. What, after all, is the true nature of the monk's apparition? A soul trapped in time, a lingering echo of the past, or something entirely different, something that we, with our modern minds, cannot yet comprehend? As we leave Byland Abbey, standing amongst the ruins and shadows, the unanswered question remains: What is it about this place that has kept the monk's spirit tethered here? And what might he still be trying to communicate from beyond the grave? As we leave behind the silent monk of Byland Abbey, we now travel deeper into the heart of England, to the northern region of Northumberland, where an ancient mystery lingers quietly in the shadows. Corbridge, a small market town with a rich Roman history, is home to many stories, but none so strange and unsettling as that of the Black Toad of Corbridge. Nestled on the banks of the River Tyne, Corbridge has been a significant settlement for thousands of years. In Roman times, it was a key military and trading post, serving as a crossroads between the northern frontier and the southern heart of the empire. The remnants of its Roman past are still visible today: crumbling stone walls, the remnants of a Roman bridge, and the well-known Corbridge Roman site. But despite the town's ancient and well-documented history, there is one story from its past that resists explanation, a tale so bizarre and eerie that it has continued to unsettle the locals for generations: the tale of the Black Toad. The story begins in the late 19th century, when the local inhabitants of Corbridge began reporting sightings of a large black toad that seemed to appear in different places, but always in strange and unsettling circumstances. Descriptions of the toad varied somewhat, but all accounts shared one unnerving characteristic. The creature was not just any ordinary amphibian. It was far larger than the toads common to the area, some even claiming it was the size of a cat, its dark, almost obsidian skin shimmering in the light. What made the Black Toad of Corbridge especially terrifying, however, was its apparent supernatural presence. Local legend has it that the toad was seen mostly during periods of misfortune, times of drought, illness, and death. Several villagers told stories of encountering the toad before major disasters struck, and after these disasters, they claimed the creature would vanish without a trace, leaving behind only an air of unease. One particularly chilling account comes from a family living on the outskirts of town in the 1880s. The family reported seeing the black toad sitting motionless in their front yard, its eyes glowing like coals, as if watching them. Shortly after, the family's house caught fire in the dead of night, consuming everything in its path. Miraculously, no one was injured, but the toad was never seen again, vanishing as suddenly as it had appeared. Was this merely a coincidence, or was there something more to the strange events surrounding the black toad? For years, the sightings persisted, each more bizarre than the last. Some reported seeing the toad standing at the edge of the river, its shadow stretching unnaturally long in the moonlight, while others spoke of hearing a faint, croaking sound in the distance, only to discover that the creature was gone by the time they approached. Even more unsettling were the rumors that the toad's appearance marked the onset of personal misfortunes. One witness, a local farmer, claimed that the appearance of the black toad coincided with the death of his prized cattle, while another described seeing it just before the entire town was struck by a devastating storm. Over time, these tales took on a life of their own, entwining with the folklore of the region. Some believed the toad was a harbinger of death or disaster, a creature sent to warn of impending calamities. Others claimed it was a manifestation of an ancient curse, a creature bound to the town as a punishment for some forgotten transgression. In the 1920s, rumors circulated that the toad was a shape-shifting spirit, one that had been bound to the river by ancient Celtic druids, a guardian of secrets too old to be understood. There were even whispers of the creature being linked to darker forces, perhaps a malevolent spirit that had taken the form of the toad as a vessel for its cursed energy. Yet, despite the many theories and legends surrounding the black toad, no definitive explanation has ever been found. Some scholars suggest that the sightings could be the result of mass hysteria or a case of mistaken identity. Perhaps the toad was simply a large amphibian, exaggerated by fearful imaginations. Others argue that the reports could have been influenced by the superstitions and folklore of the time, with the toad serving as a symbol of death, decay, and the unknown. However, there are those who hold firmly to the belief that something far more mysterious was at play. Could the black toad be more than just a figment of collective folklore? Could it be a real creature, but one whose appearance defies natural explanation? The size, the glowing eyes, the uncanny presence that seems to accompany it. These details are too consistent to be dismissed as mere superstition. Some even wonder if the creature could be an undiscovered species, one that thrives in the isolated and largely unexplored riverbanks of Corbridge. There are also those who entertain the possibility that the black toad is, in fact, a manifestation of something beyond the natural world, an apparition, or even a spirit, drawn to the place by the energy of the land itself. In a region as old as this, with its layers of history from Roman fortifications to ancient Celtic rituals, could there be forces at work that we cannot fully comprehend? Is the black toad merely a projection of collective fear, or is it a genuine supernatural phenomenon? Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this mystery is the absence of definitive answers. Unlike other urban legends that fade with time, the tale of the black toad has remained steadfastly persistent in the town of Corbridge. To this day, some locals claim to have seen the creature, and while these reports are few and far between, they continue to keep the mystery alive. As the years pass, one must wonder, has the black toad ever truly vanished? Or does it still haunt the edges of Corbridge, waiting to reappear in the shadows when the time is right? The legend of the black toad raises a fundamental question that sits at the heart of many great historical mysteries. How much of our understanding of the world is shaped by what we cannot explain? Is the black toad a trick of the mind, or is it something more? A forgotten spirit or entity that still lingers in the forgotten corners of the land? As we delve deeper into the murky history of Corbridge, it seems that some mysteries may never be solved. As we leave behind the eerie mystery of the black toad of Corbridge, we travel southward to the heart of Italy, where a haunting legend has persisted for centuries, one that speaks of an object not of flesh or bone, but of stone. In the rolling hills of Lombardy, nestled in the tranquil countryside, stands a stone that for centuries has been said to emit an unearthly sound, a scream so chilling it has left those who have heard it shaken, and those who have not, wondering if the legend could possibly be true. The stone in question is located near the small village of Zovinceto in the foothills of the Alps. From a distance, the stone appears unremarkable, just another weathered relic of nature, a large boulder lying in a quiet field surrounded by dense forest. Yet, for as long as local legend has been passed down, this stone has been said to have a remarkable and rather unsettling ability. It screams. According to the accounts that have filtered through the years, the sound is like no other. Described as a high-pitched, almost human-like scream, the noise is said to resonate from deep within the rock, as though the stone itself were alive, or perhaps trapped in some eternal, painful agony. Some claim that it is the sound of a lost soul. Others believe it to be the cry of a spirit bound to the earth, forever unable to find peace. Local folklore speaks of a dark history tied to the stone, a history steeped in mystery and misfortune. The earliest known mention of the stone's eerie properties comes from the 16th century, during a time when Lombardy was a region rife with conflict and turmoil. It was said that a group of soldiers marching through the area stumbled upon the stone while making camp near the village. As they set up their tents, one of them, curious about the peculiar shape of the stone, approached it. The moment his hand touched the surface, a deafening scream filled the air. The soldiers were so terrified that they fled in a panic, abandoning their camp and leaving behind their weapons and supplies. Word of the incident spread quickly through the region, and over time, more and more villagers and travelers reported hearing the scream when they ventured too close to the stone. But what was the source of this sound? Was it truly the work of a supernatural force, or was there a more earthly explanation? Early explanations focused on natural phenomena, suggesting that the sound might be caused by the wind or by the way the stone's porous surface reacted to changes in temperature. Could the scream be an acoustic anomaly, the result of sound waves resonating through the stone's structure in a way that mimicked a human cry? For decades, scientists and researchers have attempted to explain the scream in purely scientific terms. Some suggested that the stone might contain particular minerals that, when subjected to changes in environmental conditions, could produce a high-pitched noise. Others posited that the stone was the site of some sort of geological activity, a faint but natural noise produced by the shifting of rocks deep underground. However, no one has ever been able to confirm any of these theories definitively, and the scream continues to elude a concrete explanation. The mystery deepens when we consider the more speculative theories. Some claim that the scream is a manifestation of the stone's darker history, a curse perhaps, or a marker of some terrible event that occurred at the site centuries ago. Some folklore suggests that the stone was once the site of a brutal murder, a violent crime that stained the land with its bloodshed. The scream, according to this theory, could be the eternal cry of a victim whose soul was trapped within the stone. Others speak of the stone being the site of ancient rituals, performed by long-forgotten peoples who used the stone for purposes now lost to history. Could the scream be the lingering echo of those long-ago rites, a memory of something tragic and unknowable? In the early 20th century, rumors circulated that a local priest had conducted a series of rituals near the stone in an attempt to silence the scream. Some reports claim that the priest believed the sound to be the work of an evil spirit and that he sought to rid the area of the curse. Did the priest succeed in his efforts, or did his actions inadvertently fuel the mystery? Could the priest's attempts to banish whatever force was haunting the stone have unknowingly intensified the scream, causing it to grow louder or more persistent over time? For some, the stone's scream is far more than just an unsettling sound. It has become a symbol of something beyond the natural world, a reminder that some forces are simply beyond human understanding. Could it be that the stone itself is somehow imbued with a consciousness, an ancient spirit bound to the earth for reasons we may never fully comprehend? Perhaps the stone is not merely a passive object, but an active participant in the history of the land, holding secrets too dark or too ancient for us to unlock. The stone continues to draw attention from both the curious and the skeptical. Some visit the site in the hopes of hearing the scream themselves, while others come simply to marvel at the mystery that surrounds it. Yet, even as countless visitors attempt to unravel its secret, the stone remains silent when no one is near. The scream seems to be reserved for those who dare to approach it with a certain mindset, as though it waits for the right moment to reveal itself. And so, the mystery of the stone that screams in Lombardy endures, its origins still hidden beneath layers of time and folklore. Whether the result of a natural phenomenon, a tragic past, or something far more supernatural, the scream continues to echo in the minds of those who have heard it. The stone stands, unmoved, in the quiet fields of Zovincedo, a monument to the unknown. What is the true nature of the scream? Is it a natural sound, a cry of the earth? Or is it something more, an expression of something that defies explanation? And most importantly, what does the stone want to communicate to those who listen closely enough? The answers remain elusive, but the scream persists, a chilling reminder that some mysteries are never meant to be solved. As we step away from the eerie whispers of the stone that screamed in Lombardy, our journey takes us northward, to the ancient city of Cologne in Germany. Here, nestled in the heart of the city, lies a relic whose history is as dark as it is mysterious. the Cursed Bell of Cologne. The bell in question is known as Paternoster, a large bronze bell that once hung in the famous St. Martin's Church, a landmark of the city. Today, however, the bell no longer tolls, its presence shrouded in a disturbing legend that has echoed through the centuries. The bell itself is an impressive sight. Cast in the 13th century, it was forged in the heart of medieval Cologne and was considered a masterpiece of its time. It was said to be one of the most beautiful and sonorous bells in the region, capable of resonating with a rich, deep tone that could be heard across the city. For many years, it called the faithful to prayer, marking the passage of time and the rhythms of life in Cologne. Yet, as with many historical relics, the bell's story would take a much darker turn, one that would haunt its legacy for generations. The legend of the cursed bell begins in the late Middle Ages, when it was first said to have been struck by misfortune. According to one version of the story, a young bellmaker, known only by the name of Heinrich, was chosen to cast the bell. He worked tirelessly, pouring the molten bronze into the bell mold and carefully inscribing symbols on its surface that were intended to bring it luck and divine protection. However, in the final stages of the bell's casting, a tragedy struck. Heinrich's young daughter, who had been playing near the forge, fell into the molten metal and was tragically killed. Stricken with grief, Heinrich blamed the bell for his daughter's death, believing that it had brought a curse upon his family. It is said that, in his despair, he cursed the bell, vowing that it would never toll for joy but only for sorrow. From that moment on, strange things began to occur whenever the bell was rung. Villagers reported hearing ominous echoes in the distance, while others claimed to hear disembodied voices murmuring from the bell tower. As the years passed, the bell continued to ring, but each toll was marked by misfortune. During times of war, the bell seemed to toll with an eerie, unsettling tone, signaling the approach of danger and death. In the 16th century, when Cologne faced siege, the bell's toll was heard ringing through the streets just before the city fell to invaders. Some claimed that the bell's haunting resonance foreshadowed the destruction that was soon to come. The most chilling aspect of the bell's curse, however, was the tragic events that occurred whenever the bell was rung for special occasions. On several occasions, it is said that the bell would ring out at weddings and funerals, only to have the celebrations end in disaster. In one particularly harrowing incident, the bell rang during a wedding feast, and shortly after, a fire broke out, consuming the bride's house and killing several guests. The tragedy led many in the city to believe that the bell's tolls were not just a coincidence, but a harbinger of doom. By the 17th century, the bell had gained such a fearsome reputation that many refused to ring it at all. It was said to have become a symbol of death and misfortune, a relic that could no longer be trusted. It is during this period that the bell was finally removed from St. Martin's Church and sealed away, never to be heard from again. The people of Cologne, weary of its malevolent presence, decided that the bell had brought too much suffering to their city. Yet the story does not end there. Over the centuries, there have been reports that the bell's curse did not die with its removal. Locals have claimed to hear its toll at night, echoing faintly from the direction of St. Martin's Church, though the bell was supposedly long gone. Others claim to have seen a shadowy figure standing near the tower in the dead of night, a figure said to resemble Heinrich, the bellmaker, still watching over the bell that he had cursed. Some historians argue that the tale of the bell's curse may have been born from the superstitions of medieval society, a way to explain the unfortunate events that followed its tolling. Could it be that the bell's haunting sound merely struck a chord with the deeply religious and superstitious people of Cologne, who saw divine retribution in every misfortune? Perhaps the bell's ominous resonance was merely a product of an exaggerated collective belief in the supernatural. However, others believe that the bell's curse has more to do with the strange and tragic events surrounding its creation. Is it possible that the grief of a father who lost his child could have somehow imbued the bell with a dark, malevolent energy? Could the tragedy that befell Heinrich and his family have left a lasting imprint on the bell, one that defied explanation? Today, the bell of St. Martin's Church remains lost to history, and its true fate is unknown. Some believe that it was melted down for scrap during the years of war and hardship, while others claim that it is still hidden away, buried in the crypt of the church or locked in a forgotten vault. What remains certain, however, is that the legend of the cursed bell has left an indelible mark on the city of Cologne. As we stand on the cobbled streets of Cologne, with its towering cathedral and ancient buildings, we are left to wonder, was the curse of the bell merely a superstition, or was there something more to the story? A force tied to the stone and metal of the bell itself, something we still do not fully understand. And if the bell still calls in the shadows of the night, what message does it carry? One of sorrow and misfortune, or a warning that we are only beginning to comprehend? The mystery of the cursed bell remains unsolved, a lingering enigma in the heart of Cologne. As we leave behind the unsettling tale of the cursed bell of Cologne, our journey now takes us southward, into the heart of Italy, where the mystery of visions and divine revelations has been etched into the fabric of history. In the quiet town of Tolentino, located in the Marche region, the story of Saint Nicholas of Tolentino unfolds, a tale of visions, miracles, and spiritual encounters that defy conventional explanation. Saint Nicholas, born in 1245, was a humble monk who joined the Augustinian order at a young age. His devotion to God was unwavering, and over the course of his life, he became known for his piety, asceticism, and, notably, his extraordinary visions. These visions, which he experienced throughout his life, were described as vivid, almost tangible encounters with the divine, a phenomenon that caught the attention of his contemporaries and still captivates historians and theologians today. The town of Tolentino is a peaceful place, known for its charming medieval streets and the grand Basilica di San Nicola, a magnificent church dedicated to Saint Nicholas. It is within this very basilica that the visions of Saint Nicholas are said to have occurred, visions that would shape not only his own life, but the course of the town's religious history. According to accounts, Saint Nicholas began experiencing these spiritual revelations in his early years as a monk, but it was during his time in Tolentino that the visions became more frequent and more intense. One of the most famous of these visions occurred while he was in the midst of prayer. It is said that, during his solitary moments of contemplation, a bright light enveloped the saint, and a voice spoke to him, revealing divine truths. The visions were often accompanied by extraordinary sensory experiences, images of angels, vivid landscapes, and figures from Christian scripture appearing before him. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of these visions was their undeniable realism. Those who were present during these encounters claimed that the air around Nicholas seemed to shimmer with otherworldly energy, and some even swore they could hear the angels' voices themselves. In one particularly poignant vision, Nicholas is said to have seen the souls of the departed, gathered in the afterlife, waiting for judgment. The scene was described as both beautiful and terrifying, with Nicholas witnessing a cosmic balance between light and darkness, salvation and damnation. This vision, along with others, left a profound impact on the monk, deepening his spiritual insight and solidifying his reputation as a man of extraordinary holiness. Yet, despite the overwhelming nature of these visions, they were not universally accepted by all who heard of them. Some contemporaries of Nicholas dismissed his experiences as mere hallucinations or self-induced illusions, a product of his extreme devotion and ascetic lifestyle. After all, visions of divine origin were not uncommon in the religious world of the Middle Ages, where mysticism and spirituality often intertwined. But others saw Nicholas's encounters as genuine, a true manifestation of God's will. Over time, the visions became more frequent and intense. In one vision, Nicholas is said to have seen Christ himself, standing before him and offering a message of peace and salvation. These increasingly vivid and powerful experiences led many to believe that Nicholas was receiving direct communication from the divine realm, perhaps even fulfilling a prophetic role. Some believed that the saint had been chosen to deliver a special message to the world, and his visions were not just personal experiences, but glimpses into the deeper mysteries of faith. In addition to the visions, Nicholas also performed numerous miracles, further cementing his status as a saint. These miracles were often seen as a direct result of the divine revelations he had received. It was said that he had the power to heal the sick, raise the dead, and protect the innocent from harm. In one such miracle, Nicholas is credited with saving the town of Tolentino from a deadly plague, an event that led many to attribute the saint's visions and miraculous deeds to the direct intervention of God. But what exactly were these visions? Were they truly divine revelations, as the saint's followers believed? Or was there another, more earthly explanation? Could the intense spirituality and isolation of monastic life have led to heightened states of perception, in which the line between the physical and the spiritual became blurred? Some scholars suggest that Nicholas may have experienced a form of mystical ecstasy brought on by fasting, prayer, and intense meditation. This could explain the vividness of his visions, which may have been the product of a deeply altered state of consciousness. Others, however, point to the possibility that the visions were a form of divine communication sent to guide Saint Nicholas in his role as a spiritual leader. Could it be that these experiences were, in fact, a manifestation of something beyond human understanding, an expression of the divine will, reaching out to a humble monk in a remote corner of Italy? After all, religious history is filled with similar accounts of saints and mystics who have received visions or messages from a higher power. For those who believe in the authenticity of Nicholas's visions, there is little doubt that his experiences were a direct connection to the divine. But for others, the mystery remains unsolved, an enigma that continues to spark debate and intrigue among theologians, historians, and spiritual seekers alike. Could Saint Nicholas have truly seen into the realms beyond, glimpsing truths that we are unable to comprehend? Or was he simply a man deeply immersed in his faith, whose mind and spirit were shaped by the intense religious fervor of his time? As we stand before the Basilica di San Nicola in Tolentino, gazing up at its towering facade, we are left with more questions than answers. The visions of Saint Nicholas of Tolentino remain one of the most compelling and mysterious chapters in religious history, and the true nature of his encounters with the divine may never be fully understood. Were they the product of divine inspiration, or was there something more to these visions, a psychological or spiritual phenomenon beyond our current understanding? Whatever the truth may be, the legacy of Saint Nicholas's visions endures, leaving us to ponder what might still be hidden in the mysteries of faith and the human soul.
As we continue our journey through the unexplained mysteries of history, we now find ourselves in the heart of Slovenia, at a place where the very land itself seems to defy natural law. Cerknica, a small town nestled in the foothills of the Javorniki Mountains, is home to a remarkable phenomenon that has intrigued locals and visitors alike for centuries: the mysterious disappearing lake of Cerknica. This lake, known as Lake Cerknica, is no ordinary body of water. Twice a year, the lake seemingly vanishes, leaving behind a vast expanse of muddy earth, strange rock formations, and the remains of sunken trees. In spring and autumn, after heavy rains or the melting of snow, the lake swells to life, its waters covering more than 20 square kilometers, creating a picturesque scene, one that resembles the stillness of a serene, mystical wilderness. But as the seasons change, something extraordinary happens. The water recedes. The lake slowly sinks, disappearing into the ground as though it were never there. What remains is an eerie, almost barren landscape, dotted with the skeletal remains of trees and strange land formations. Locals call it a karst phenomenon, but this explanation only raises more questions. How could an entire lake vanish so completely, leaving only damp patches and small puddles? Where does the water go, and how does it reappear without any clear trace of its journey? These are just a few of the questions that have kept both scientists and mystics alike searching for answers for centuries. The scientific community generally attributes this disappearing act to the unique geology of the region. Lake Cerknica is part of the Cerknica Polje, a vast karstic field, meaning it lies over porous limestone bedrock. Beneath this bedrock are a network of underground rivers and channels. During the wet season, these subterranean channels fill with water, causing the lake to rise and flood the surrounding area. As the dry season approaches, the water is slowly absorbed into these underground channels, disappearing from view, almost as if nature itself is swallowing it whole. But despite this rational explanation, there's an unsettling aspect to the phenomenon that has fascinated generations. This is no ordinary disappearance. The lake doesn't merely fade away over time. It vanishes in an almost supernatural manner, as though some unseen force is at play. The transformation happens with such rapidity that it's as if the land itself decides to reclaim the water without a trace. Some who have witnessed the shift speak of hearing odd sounds, whistles and murmurs, as the lake retreats into the earth. The air grows heavier, and a thick fog sometimes rises from the ground, further adding to the eerie atmosphere. But the mystery deepens when you consider the folklore that surrounds the lake. According to local legend, the lake's vanishing act is linked to ancient supernatural forces. One of the more popular tales speaks of a vengeful spirit, a cursed being, cast out from the heavens who resides beneath the lake. Some believe the spirit controls the ebb and flow of the waters, allowing the lake to rise and fall according to its will. Others say that the lake's mysterious disappearance is a sign of an ancient, hidden treasure waiting to be uncovered, if one can only solve the riddle of the lake's disappearance.
Over the centuries, countless explorers, treasure hunters, and scientists have trekked into the Cerknica Polje, hoping to uncover something extraordinary, but none have come close to unlocking the full mystery of the lake. Even with modern-day technology, there's no clear answer as to where the water goes when it disappears. Some have theorized that the waters find their way into deep underground caverns. Others believe the water could be flowing into undiscovered channels connected to distant rivers or even other subterranean lakes. But as of today, no one has managed to definitively trace the lake's watery journey. And so the mystery of the disappearing lake endures, one that refuses to be fully explained by the rational mind. Is it simply a geological oddity? Or is there something more to it? Some hidden force beneath the earth that we are yet to understand? What if the lake's disappearance is part of something larger, a natural cycle connected to the earth's ancient rhythms that we have yet to comprehend? Could it be that the people of Cerknica are, in some way, connected to a deeper, older mystery, one that reaches back to the ancient world and beyond? As we stand on the edge of the empty lakebed, gazing into the vast, desolate landscape, we are left with more questions than answers. Could the disappearance of Lake Cerknica be an ancient phenomenon, one that holds secrets we have yet to unlock? Or is it a reminder of the strange and mysterious forces of nature, forces that, even in today's modern age, still remain beyond our understanding? The water may return next season, just as it has done for centuries. But what secrets still lie beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed? And what might remain hidden, waiting for someone to finally uncover the truth of the vanishing lake of Cerknica? As we shift our focus to the Caribbean, we arrive at the idyllic island of Barbados, a place known for its lush beaches, vibrant culture, and a history that stretches back to the 17th century. Yet beneath the calm, tropical beauty of this island lies a chilling and mysterious tale that has fascinated locals and visitors alike for generations: the moving coffins of Barbados. In the small village of Oistins, located on the southern coast of the island, there is a burial ground that has long been shrouded in strange and unsettling stories. The Chase Vault, a stone tomb nestled in the heart of the cemetery, has become infamous for a phenomenon that, to this day, defies rational explanation. It is said that, for years, the coffins inside this vault have been found moved, sometimes even turned upside down or out of place. These unsettling discoveries were made after the vault was opened for subsequent burials, only to reveal that the coffins had shifted, their positions completely altered. At times, the coffins appeared stacked upon one another in impossible arrangements, as if they had been jostled by some invisible force. But what makes this story all the more unsettling is that, often, no sign of forced entry or disturbance could be found. The first documented reports of this strange occurrence date back to the early 19th century, when the vault was being used to house the remains of the Chase family. The vault, originally built in 1724, is located in a graveyard where members of prominent families were interred. Yet, as the years passed, rumors began to circulate about the unnerving position of the coffins. As more bodies were laid to rest in the vault, the coffins appeared to shift and move on their own, and soon local stories began to surface about strange happenings surrounding the tomb. The first accounts claimed that the coffins of those who had been dead for years seemed to be the ones most affected. These unsettling rearrangements persisted, leading the family to take the drastic step of sealing the vault, though the shifting continued. One could easily chalk this up to the effects of time, settling ground, or perhaps the forces of nature, natural shifting of earth and moisture perhaps. However, a deeper look into the mystery reveals that the vault's phenomenon is not as easily explained. No matter how many times the vault was sealed and its contents rearranged, the movement persisted. Locals began to speak of the curse of the Chase family, a dark and ancient force that seemed to linger within the vault. Some even linked the mystery to voodoo practices, suggesting that the island's African heritage and the rituals of the enslaved people might have played a role in these occurrences. Had some spiritual force, rooted in the deep ancestral connections of the island, awakened? Or was there something more sinister at play, a curse on the family whose remains rested in the vault? As time passed, scientific theories attempted to provide plausible explanations for the strange phenomenon. Some experts suggested that the coffins had been poorly constructed, leading to weak joints that allowed for movement, or that the soil had settled in such a way that the vault's contents were shifted. Others posited that the water table on the island might be unstable, causing shifts in the ground that displaced the coffins. But such explanations do little to quell the unease that still lingers around the tomb. How do we explain the apparent randomness of the movement? The impossibility of the coffins being stacked in such a way by natural causes alone? What is perhaps most disturbing about the moving coffins of Barbados is that the tales surrounding them do not simply begin and end with the Chase Vault. The entire region of the Caribbean is rife with similar stories of strange occurrences in burial grounds, some dating back to the age of colonization. These precursor tales, linked to the traditions, fears, and superstitions of African slaves, weave a complex tapestry of belief systems that question the boundaries between the living and the dead. Could these unsettling events be tied to a shared belief in spirits or ancestral power that transcended the grave? Or could there be something more unknown to us, lurking in the depths of the earth? In a way, the Chase Vault serves as a symbolic reminder of the fragility of our understanding of the world around us. We search for answers within the boundaries of our knowledge, but there are some mysteries that elude even the sharpest minds. Perhaps there is an energy in the earth, an unknown force that we simply cannot explain, an ancient power connected to the land that lies beneath the coffins. As the years have passed, the moving coffins have remained a source of fascination and dread for those who visit Barbados. Some come seeking the truth, others simply to witness the eerie phenomenon for themselves. But as with many unsolved mysteries, the Chase Vault's mystery is far from resolved. Each new generation wonders, could the moving coffins be a natural phenomenon, a product of the island's shifting earth? Or are they a haunting reminder of something more, something ancient, that refuses to remain buried? Perhaps, just perhaps, the answers lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered, or to remain forever out of reach. As we continue our journey through some of history's eeriest and most perplexing mysteries, we find ourselves in the heart of Bristol, a city steeped in centuries of maritime history, bustling trade, and ancient traditions. But beneath the cobbled streets and the clamor of the modern world, there lies a chilling case that has confounded both locals and investigators for generations: the Bristol ghost children. The haunting begins in the 1830s, when a seemingly ordinary row of houses on Canning Street, near the city's center, became the setting for one of the most baffling and eerie phenomena recorded in the annals of paranormal history. It was here, in a modest home, that residents first reported seeing strange figures that would appear and disappear without warning. These figures, as eyewitness accounts described, were not just any apparitions. They were children. Ghostly, translucent children who seemed to play and move about the room, interacting with the furniture as if living in a time long past. The stories began innocently enough. A few neighbors, walking past the house, swore they saw fleeting shadows through the windows. But as more and more people began to speak of the apparitions, the reports grew stranger and more chilling. Those who lived in the house reported hearing children's laughter, the unmistakable sound of small feet running across the floor, even though there were no children living there. Some claimed to have seen the figures distinctly, only to blink and find the space empty, the air still and quiet, as if the children had never been there at all. Perhaps the most disturbing element was the way the children seemed to interact with the environment. Unlike typical ghostly apparitions that merely appeared and faded away, the Bristol ghost children were reported to engage with their surroundings. Furniture would move slightly, as if they had been touched or played with. Objects were found out of place, often in the same spots where the spectral children had been seen moments before. A toy, discarded on the floor by an unseen hand, would reappear days later in a completely different part of the room. And yet, no living soul had ever entered the house to move it. Though the initial sightings were dismissed as tricks of the light, the phenomenon continued to spread. Local rumors began to circulate, and soon more families in the area came forward with similar tales of encounters with these ghostly children. As word of the hauntings grew, a deeper sense of dread began to settle over the city. Who were these children? Why were they haunting this particular house? Were they victims of some long-forgotten tragedy? Or was their presence something else entirely? One of the most unsettling aspects of the Bristol ghost children case is the eerie consistency of the sightings. Accounts from different families, living in different homes on the same street, matched almost identically. Witnesses described the children as having the same features: pale skin, faintly glowing in the dim light, with wide, glassy eyes that stared out from faces seemingly frozen in time. They wore clothing from a bygone era, tattered and worn, as if taken from a forgotten age. Some historians and paranormal experts have suggested that the figures may be the restless souls of children who once lived in the area, possibly victims of a tragic fire, or perhaps the children of sailors lost at sea, given the port city's maritime history. Yet, there is no historical record that clearly identifies such a tragedy, making the origin of these specters all the more perplexing. Were they simply lost souls, caught between two worlds, or was there something more to their haunting presence? Some researchers have taken a more speculative approach, suggesting that the children might not be ghosts at all, but rather time-slip phenomena, instances where the fabric of time itself is bent, allowing glimpses of a different era to bleed through into the present. Others have pointed to the potential for psychic impressions, residual energy from traumatic events that, under the right conditions, could manifest as visions or hallucinations. What remains particularly curious is the fact that, despite numerous attempts to investigate the mystery, no definitive explanation has ever surfaced. Local investigators, psychics, and even the police were baffled by the reports, and many of the sightings have continued well into the modern day. The house itself, now a part of Bristol's rich history, has since been demolished, but the stories persist. Could these spectral children be a manifestation of some historical trauma, forever haunting the streets of Bristol? Or do they represent something more elusive, an unknown force that plays with time itself, blending past and present in a way we are unable to comprehend? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, hidden beneath layers of history, waiting to be uncovered. And so, as with so many other unsolved mysteries, the story of the Bristol ghost children remains suspended in the fog of uncertainty, urging us to question what we know about the boundaries between life and death. Is it possible that these children still walk among us, caught forever in an endless loop of their own existence? Or have they moved on, leaving only the echoes of their presence behind? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain: the mystery is far from solved. And perhaps, just perhaps, the truth will remain hidden, waiting for the day when we are ready to understand it. As we venture deeper into the mysterious corridors of history, we arrive in the ancient Kingdom of England, a land shaped by centuries of conflict, faith, and power. But amidst the well-documented events of the early Middle Ages, one name stands out: Bishop Eadnoth, a figure whose disappearance, more than a millennium ago, continues to puzzle historians and intrigue modern-day mystery seekers. The year is 1016, and the Kingdom of England is in turmoil. King Edmund Ironside, son of King Ethelred the Unready, is struggling to defend his kingdom from the advancing Danish forces led by Cnut the Great. Amidst this conflict, in the city of Worcester, Bishop Eadnoth resides. A man of the church, devout in his faith, Eadnoth is described in contemporary records as a pious and learned leader, well respected by his flock. Yet, for all his standing in the community, his fate remains shrouded in mystery. In the spring of 1016, during a time when England was caught between warring factions, Bishop Eadnoth was tragically caught in the crossfire. As the Danes advanced upon Worcester, he was taken prisoner. According to accounts, he was held by the invading forces, but his exact fate after this event is unclear. The historical records of his capture provide conflicting accounts. Some say that he was executed, others suggest that he simply vanished. Where did Eadnoth go? And more importantly, why was his disappearance so obscure? The most puzzling element of the story lies in the absolute lack of concrete evidence about what happened to the bishop after his capture. While other historical figures who were taken prisoner during the same period, such as noblemen or warriors, often have their fates clearly recorded, Eadnoth's case is strikingly absent from the annals of history. His name disappears from official records after his capture, leaving only whispers of his fate. A compelling theory suggests that Bishop Eadnoth was executed, perhaps because of his high rank in the church or his symbolic importance to the English resistance against the Danes. But the lack of a body or clear documentation makes this theory hard to confirm. If he had been killed, why would the Danes, with their growing influence in the region, allow such an important figure's death to go unrecorded? Wouldn't his execution have been a statement of power? Another theory posits that Eadnoth may have been taken as a prisoner of war and transported to a distant part of the kingdom or even beyond, where he was lost to history. But again, the absence of any supporting records is unsettling. Surely someone, somewhere, would have noted the whereabouts of a bishop of such prominence. Could it be that he was deliberately erased from the historical record? And if so, by whom and why? Adding to the intrigue is the location of Worcester itself. The city, with its rich history and strategic importance during the early Middle Ages, was a site of repeated sieges, battles, and conflicts. In the year 1016, the city faced multiple attacks, and its cathedral, an important center of ecclesiastical power, became the symbolic heart of English resistance. Could it be that Eadnoth's disappearance was tied to something even greater? Perhaps to a hidden struggle within the church or among the English elite? Or was his fate simply a casualty of war, one of many forgotten in the chaos of conflict? There are even those who speculate that Eadnoth's disappearance could have been connected to the growing influence of the Danish crown, and more specifically, to Canute the Great's efforts to consolidate power in England. After all, Canute would later become King of England, Denmark, and Norway, an unprecedented union that might have involved delicate political maneuvers, some of which remain obscured by time. Could Bishop Eadnoth's vanishing act be part of a larger, more hidden political agenda? Did his disappearance serve as a reminder of the fragility of power during that tumultuous period? As we look back, the mystery of Bishop Eadnoth serves as a haunting reminder of the complexities of history. The absence of clear evidence leaves us with a deepening sense of unease. What really happened to the bishop? Was he a martyr, a political prisoner, or simply lost to the winds of time? As with so many unsolved mysteries of the past, the truth may lie buried beneath layers of time, awaiting discovery. But for now, the mystery of Bishop Eadnoth's disappearance remains just that, unresolved, enigmatic, and waiting for an answer. What might still be hidden from our view, lost to the shadows of history? Only time will tell.